a dark and stormy night, and Emma had just finished her shift at the diner. She was tired and looking forward to getting home and crawling into bed. But as she drove down the dark, deserted road, she saw something in the sky that made her blood run cold. It was a UFO hovering above the trees. Emma couldn't believe her eyes. She had never seen anything like it before. The ship was huge, with bright lights flashing all around it. As she drove closer, she could feel the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Suddenly, UFO started moving towards her, its lights growing brighter and brighter. Emma tried to speed up, but the ship seemed to be following her. She could hear strange noises coming from the ship, a language she had never heard before. She was terrified. As she approached a bend in the road, the ship seemed to disappear. Emma let out a sigh of relief, thinking that she had imagined the whole thing. But as she drove around the bend, she saw the ship again, hovering directly in front of her car. The ship's bright lights seemed to fill her car, blinding her. She felt a jolt, and then everything went black. When Emma woke up, she was lying on a cold metal table, surrounded by strange creatures. They had long, thin fingers and huge, black eyes that seemed to stare right through her. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The creatures probed her body with strange instruments, and she could feel their cold touch on her skin. She didn't know how long they kept her there, but it felt like hours. Finally, the creatures seemed to lose interest in her and left the room. Emma was left alone, shivering and terrified. She didn't know what they had done to her, but she knew that she would never be the same again. From that day on, Emma was haunted by nightmares of the creatures and their ship. She became withdrawn and paranoid, convinced that they were still watching her. She could never forget the horror of that night, when she had come face to face with the unknown. Emma's friends and family tried to convince her that it was all just a nightmare, but she knew that what she had experienced was real. She started doing research on UFO sightings and abductions, and discovered that she wasn't the only one who had been taken by these creatures. As the weeks passed, Emma became increasingly obsessed with the idea of the aliens coming back for her. She started sleeping with a knife under her pillow, and refused to leave the house after dark. Her friends and family tried to help her, but nothing they said could shake her belief that the aliens were out there, watching her every move. One night, as Emma was lying in bed, she heard a strange noise outside her window. She peered through the blinds and saw the bright lights of the UFO hovering just outside her house. She froze in terror, her heart pounding in her chest. The next thing she knew, she was back on the cold metal table, surrounded by the same creatures. They probed her body once again, and this time she could feel the pain of their instruments. She screamed and thrashed, but they held her down with their long, thin fingers. When they were done, they left her alone in the room once again. Emma lay there, battered and broken, tears streaming down her face. She knew that this time, she wouldn't be going home. The next morning, Emma's friends and family found her body lying in her bed, a look of terror frozen on her face. They never found any evidence of the creatures or their ship, but they knew that something had taken her. From that day on, the small town was haunted by rumors of UFO sightings and abductions, and no one ever drove down that dark, deserted road alone again.